When I lost my mum, it was obviously a very, very sad time, and it was very hard for me to go through that. But it has made me so resilient. And I honestly think that is what has helped me with like my business and just in life in general. Like, I just feel like when bad things happen, you can either choose to be a victim of those bad things, or you can choose to use them as your fuel.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Catch Ups in My Kitchen with me, Georgia Simmons, host of the podcast. In my kitchen this week, I am joined by the gorgeous Olivia Jenkins, founder of the jewellery brand D.Louise. So in this episode, we touch on a very raw and actually quite painful topic, which is all things grief and loss, which Olivia sadly has gone through quite a lot of already in her life. But I don't think we ever kind of think of grieving as part of wellness. And it's actually a huge part and not part that we kind of talk about that often. So I wanted to talk to Olivia about grieving and loss and how she's actually reframed it in her mind, how she's coped with it, her coping mechanisms, because we all go through loss. It's one of those things that no one wants to go through, but we all do go through. So this is a really, really amazing episode. We also touched on being a female founder, becoming more confident, and also being comfortable with the uncomfortable. So there were lots of amazing topics discussed in this episode. I think you will love it. As always, thank you so much for all your support on the podcast. If I could ask you to please press the follow and subscribe button, rate us 5 out of 5 if you feel like being generous. It means the world and it goes towards growing the podcast, which we are growing all the time thanks to you guys. So yeah, thanks so much. Enjoy the episode and have a lovely, lovely rest of your day. Olivia, welcome to my kitchen. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. Do you mind giving a really quick elevator pitch, who you are and what you do?
Yeah, definitely. So my name's Olivia Jenkins, and I started a business 3 years ago called D.Louise, and I've sort of been scaling and growing that for the last 3.5 years. I feel like I actually don't have anything apart from my company going on at the minute, so I feel like my company is my whole life. But yeah, we specialise in high quality, affordable jewellery, and we always say try and do luxury for less.
I love it. I think you've done incredibly, incredibly well. And having your own business does become your life. So yes. It makes complete sense. So before we get into it all, we have a quick fire round about all things food.
Cool.
So cook in or eat out?
Cook in.
Okay. Favourite restaurant in London?
Ooh, I like Rocker.
Good one. Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
What's your go-to delivery?
Chicken sheesh, any Lebanese kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So I don't feel too stodgy.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Lebanese is my favourite. Also, you can order quite a few things. Any leftovers can go in the fridge.
Yeah.
It's a
have
good
it
one.
The next day. Yeah.
With you. Go-to cuisine.
Probably whatever Rocker is. Is that like
Japanese,
Asian fusion?
Asian.
Yeah.
Nice. And what's your go-to fridge or cupboard staple, which isn't the basics?
Ooh, probably yogurt. Love a yogurt.
Yeah, good one.
Simple, but
simple, but it's always in the fridge. And what's your favourite dish to cook at home?
I'm normally a bit basic at home, so probably a chili or a spaghetti bolognese.
Nice, comfort.
Easy.
Yeah, easy. Okay, love it. So I would love to start with your childhood.
Yes.
So what was your upbringing like? Let's go right back to the beginning. What was Olivia like growing up?
So I think I had the most classic childhood ever in my whole life. I literally was just a small town girl. Grew up in Wales, so it was mum, dad, brothers, and it was just a very simple life. We went on holiday once a year. We were not really well off. I didn't go to private school, just had honestly the most normal upbringing ever. And I loved it. And I never really realised that London existed, really, to be honest, before I went to uni. I was just very much I loved the small town life. So yeah, I had a really normal upbringing, which is quite boring, but just so normal.
But that's so nice. And would you say you were a girly girl?
No, not at all. When I was younger, I would play football, didn't want to wear makeup, wanted to be like my brothers. As soon as I was ready to walk, I wanted to be like them.
Oh my God.
And then when I went to high school, I was oh, I actually think I prefer being a bit more girly. So but like before high school, I was really like tomboyish.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
Because kind of having the jewelry, you might think, oh my God, like, yeah, girly girl, always wanting to like put makeup on, dress up.
Yeah.
But how it actually was completely the opposite.
Yeah, totally different.
So how did D.Louise start? What was the initial idea and what was the moment when you were like, okay, I'm going to start a jewelry brand?
So I was on holiday, and I don't know if you remember after COVID that when the government said we had to go back to the office like 2 or 3 days a week. So I was currently in like an advertising role. And my friend Rachel, I can literally remember it like so clearly. So my friend Rachel texted me saying, oh, what days of the week are you going back to the office? And I was like, oh my God, I can never go back to the office. I was like, I need to do something else. I need to get out of this, like cannot be here anymore. So it was like from that point on that I was like, well, I'm either not going to go back to that job or I need to do something that's going to get me out of like where I currently am at. And my fiance, Jack, has always been super entrepreneurial. And he was like, oh, well, you know that you can start a business. And I was like, are you joking? Like, I have no idea how to start a business. Like, I didn't know how to do finance, like accounts, product, nothing, like absolutely zero. And he basically said to me, he was like, there's no difference between me and you. He was like, the only difference is that I've done it before and you haven't. And, you know, when you sort of like have an idea and you're like, oh yeah, that is really true. Yeah. So I was like, okay. So it's from that point on, it was like, there was not like a one thing that happened apart from my friend texting me, but it was kind of like a snowball effect from then on. And I've always loved jewelry. So always been into it. So since I was like 15, I got a job at Pandora, like just a part-time girl. And I loved that people would come in and I would be instantly connected to them because they would be like, oh, I got this necklace for my birthday. My boyfriend got it for me when I was in Paris. Or there was always like such a story tied to it. And I felt like it was a very personal product. So I loved that because I love people and I love chatting to them. But I always felt like there was either you had the silver jewelry from like, say, a Pandora, or you had like really expensive gold jewelry from like Tiffany's. There was nothing ever really like in between. And I felt like I wanted to be able to bring to the market gold jewelry that had like the quality of the Pandoras, because I think Pandora is amazing quality, but was gold and trendy and you could wear it all the time and you didn't have to take it off. So I started researching into it, and I knew that gold-plated jewelry was like often not very good quality. So you can't wear it to the gym, you can't wear it in the shower. And I'm so lazy. So I was like, I need to be able to solve this problem for like myself. And hopefully if I'm having this problem, that means there'll be a market out there for it. And I was researching all different suppliers. And this one guy came back to me and he was like, have you heard of stainless steel? And I was like, no, I feel like you're just like trying to make me buy from you. So I was like, he's totally scamming me. But I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go with it, see what happens. Ordered the samples and they were just amazing. So I was like, oh, this is, I know, you know, when you have like a light bulb moment, I was like, okay, I've got an amazing product. Like I really want to go for this. So that was sort of like the initial beginning of this. Obviously there's loads in between that, but that's like the general gist.
That is amazing. And what product did you start with? Because I think with jewelry, there's like, you probably have a million ideas and you're like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that. So what did you start with?
So I have no design skills, no design background whatsoever. So I was like, I can't design jewelry. I also don't have any money to pay for a jewelry designer. So I was like, I want to buy like classic timeless pieces that already exist and hopefully they'll be in better quality. So we started with like an essentials necklace, which is like, have you seen that like herringbone like snake chain?
Yes.
You see them everywhere, but that was like our first ever piece. And the paperclip necklace, which was so simple as well. So it was really like classic, staple, simple pieces. So I only started with like 4 pieces on my website.
That's so great though.
Yeah.
That's so great. And like, touching on the fact that like obviously a lot of jewelry in the past can like tarnish and wear and you get that horrible like green mark and all of that. I saw on Instagram that like some of your jewelry was worn by athletes at the Olympics, which is incredible. And it just shows that like it is jewelry that works and that lasts. And there's nothing worse than like your favorite ring, you taking it off and then you see this like nice green mark around your finger. Like that's just not what you want.
Yeah.
So I think that's amazing. And you've really tapped into like a market which there was such a demand for it.
Yeah.
And I also think we're now in a world where we want different jewelry for different outfits. But we can't afford to buy the best for every single piece of jewelry that we want.
Yeah.
So there is a real market for it, which I love.
Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by Zuki. If, like me, you're interested in supplements and love to feel your best, then you need to try Zuki's range of liposomal supplements. They have been clinically proven to provide 4 times the amount of absorption compared to conventional supplements, which means you feel the benefits faster. They also come in a delicious single-serve sachet, which means you can look forward to taking your supplements every day. My current favourite is vitamin B12, which tastes just like strawberry. If you're interested in trying Zuki, they have given all catch-up listeners a chance to receive a free taster pack. This includes vitamin C, D, B12, collagen, and turmeric. To receive your free pack, click the link in the show notes. Thank you so much, Zuki, for sponsoring the podcast. Now let's get back to the episode. And could you talk about the name?
Yes.
So I know there's a bit of a history behind the name. So do you mind sharing that story?
Yeah. So once I had the product, I was like, okay, I've got a really good product. Now I need to create a brand. And again, like no design background, like this is me just like totally winging it in the very beginning. So I went to Jack and I was like, I think I want to call the brand D.Louise. So my mum was called Deborah Louise and she passed away in 2017. So I was like, I'm going to do it as like a sort of a tribute to her. And he said to me, he was like, you can do that. But if you do that, like, it means that this is going to be, you have to make it work and it has to be really good. And I was like, I think that's the main reason why I want to do it. So I think having that pull from the very beginning has made it so much more special, not only to me, but also like, I feel like we have such a connection with anyone who hears about our brand, because so many people have lost someone in their lives or been through like hardship. So I feel like they almost feel like they have like a tie to D.Louise because they know that it started from like a place of sadness and darkness, but now it's been turned into something which is like really positive.
I think that's so inspiring. I think that's like, I kind of want to touch on like grief, because I think everyone listening has gone through grief in some way, shape or form. And it's the worst thing and everyone deals with it so differently and people don't often talk about it.
Yeah.
And I think people find it uncomfortable to talk about. They don't want to ask people how they are. And everyone has their own way of battling with it and dealing with it. And I think this is such a special thing that you've done, because like you've given your mum a whole new life in this world. And it's like you've kind of built a whole new relationship with your mum, which is so, so special. So do you mind touching on like, because I know you've gone through grief twice in your life, which we'll get to. But like, do you mind touching on like how you personally dealt with losing your mum and like how this may have like helped you kind of overcome the grieving?
Yeah, of course. So I think, like you said, I totally agree. People grieve in so many different ways and there's no right or wrong way to grieve. And this is just my personal experience and what I've gone through. So I think when you lose someone, I've heard it on a podcast or a quote. Someone said it's almost like when you lose your mom or a parent or someone really close to you, you almost like die yourself and you then are reborn into a different person without them. And when I heard this, I was like, that is literally me. I feel like when I lost my mum, it was obviously a very, very sad time and it was very hard for me to go through that. But it has made me so resilient. And I honestly think that is what has helped me with like my business and just in life in general. Like, I just feel like when bad things happen, you can either choose to be a victim of those bad things or you can choose to use them as your fuel. And I always say that like, instead of trying to focus on the negative things about losing my mum, I try and focus on how lucky I was to have her for those 48 years, because she was the best mum in the world. So I was like, I would way rather have her for that 48 years than to not have her at all. So I think like I try and choose to be grateful about my time with her. But then I also know that it is hard. And I think it's also accepting that it's going to be hard. So people often don't really realize that things in life are just going to be hard to get through, but you have to just get through them. And that is just what hard feels like. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think honestly, you're so right. And like, I think we talk about health in so many different areas in this podcast, and like dealing with grief is part of health and wellness. I'm like, everyone loses loved ones, and it's just how you deal with it. And I think
Yeah.
you're so right. Like, you have a choice to make in every situation in life. And it's like, do you make the most of a situation or do you not? And I'm not saying that it's ever going to be a good thing to lose someone. It's never going to be good. It's always bad and it always hurts. But like you say, like, what can you learn from it? Well, you probably learned so much about yourself. It gave you, like you say, like a whole different perspective on life. You had resilience. And I think that is so inspiring and good for people to hear, because sometimes you think, oh my God, like my life is now over because I've lost this person and I can't even see a way out. And like, you probably will have those days where it's so dark and you can't see a way out. And I think you've got to feel those feels, but then also knowing that like, it will be better, it will be okay. And we're not saying that everyone has to suddenly, start a business as a result, but like finding that way of like celebrating that person in another way is just so lovely. And I think it's so inspiring. And also for you, when you haven't, you mentioned that your fiance has had a few businesses and he's quite entrepreneurial. For you not to be necessarily entrepreneurial from the offset, obviously you are a huge entrepreneur, but like maybe that tie to your mum gave you that like extra boost that you needed, like the accountability partner. I feel like she's like, well, can't give up now. And I think that's so special as well.
Yeah, no, it's so true.
And like touching on grief, you also lost your brother.
Yes.
So do you mind touching on that story as well?
Yeah, so I lost my brother Jack. So my fiance is called Jack and my brother was also called Jack. So it's a bit confusing.
Oh, wow,
yeah,
that's really interesting.
Yeah, so I lost my brother Jack literally just after I started D.Louise. So it was probably about 6 months in. And he committed suicide, which is obviously horrendous. And it was really, really tough to deal with. But he made a choice and I have to respect that choice and still obviously love him dearly. But I think what that did for me was just gave me so much more fuel and fire, because I feel like he couldn't live the life that he wanted to live. So I feel like I almost have like a duty to him to live my life the best I can. And when I lost my brother, it was almost like worse than losing my mum. It's so hard to like explain, but like where it's such shock and such trauma that I went through, it was just such a hard period. And I don't really know how to like help anyone who is going through that time, because there's nothing that anyone can say that will make you feel better. But what I would say is that you do come out the other side if you build that resilience and you use it in a way to fuel your life, and just try and focus on the good things, like living for them and doing things that they can no longer do. That's what I always try and do.
It's such a lovely way to put it. And like you say, there's no way or no words that will make it feel any better or be any better. But I think that's a lovely way of trying to like reframe it in your mind. And what did it make you look at life differently? And did it make you look at your own kind of well-being differently?
Yeah, so I think it definitely made me look at life completely differently. I actually went through like a bit of like trauma. My trauma response was that I thought that I was going to lose everyone. So I was getting really scared about if I would lose like my other brother or my dad, or like and then I would get like really nervous about it. So that would be like my personal trauma that I've had. So I'm still working through that a lot, because even if like someone doesn't reply to my text for like an hour, I'm like, has something happened to them? Like, it's literally so weird. I still have that now. I've forgotten the question.
The question was like, if you look at life differently and your own well-being differently.
Yeah, so I still have those struggles like on a day-to-day basis, but I also think that it makes me just go for things a lot more. Like, I honestly always say like life is so short, and I feel like it's such a cliche quote and comment, but life is so short, and it's way too short to be in a job that you don't like. It's way too short to be in a situation that you don't like, that you can control to get out of it. And I just think it makes me, I just feel like everything has gone wrong. So I'm like, whatever else can go wrong, I'm just like, go on, bring it on. Like, I'll just see what happens.
Yeah.
So I do take a lot more risks. And I also think that I am a bit more fearless, because I just think I may as well just go for it.
Yeah, like, why not? Yeah. I think it's so true. And I think life is so short. And like, D.Louise really embodies that. Like, you didn't want to get back to the office. And a lot of people would have been like, oh, well, I've got to though. Yeah. No, you don't.
Yeah, you don't.
Like, you don't have to do that. And like, you know, you can have a bad day, that's fine. And like, you know, work's not always plain sailing. And also, just because you started D.Louise doesn't mean that it's now like, oh, this is so fun and easy. Like, obviously you have tough times too and like tough days. But like, yeah, if you want to do something, just do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely what your experience has kind of demonstrated to you. And I think that's so important for everyone to think and feel like, regardless of if you've lost someone and who that person is, I think, you know, yeah, life is for living and you've just got to go for it. And I think that's also like, when it comes to health and wellness, that's also important in that aspect. Like balance, for example, it's important to be the healthiest version of yourself, but it's also important to enjoy that healthy version of yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you see on Instagram, like don't drink and don't do this and don't do that. And like, let's wake up at 5 and go crazy. And like, yeah, okay, it's really good to do all those things, but also it's important to go out with your friends, have those drinks, enjoy your life, enjoy the highs and like live life to the full. So I think, yeah, it is what you kind of demonstrated and spoken about is like so inspiring. And I'm sure you've inspired so many others who have probably gone through some tough times as well. So one of your company values is be brave.
Yes.
And I love that. Firstly, like you are so brave, like literally what we've just spoken about, like you're so inspiring. And like with what you did with D.Louise, starting a business, going for it, going through all the grief you've gone through and the loss you've gone through, like that's no small ship at all. But I think also I want to touch on like being a female founder. And I don't want to start being like, oh, woe is us, because like there's a lot of perks to it too.
Yeah.
But have you found there to be any challenges?
Yeah, for sure. I think that people would be stupid to think that having a business doesn't come with challenges. So I think there's so many challenges for male and females. And I know that there's like this huge stigma around like a negative connotation with females getting investment. And I think it's only like 2% of females are getting the investment in the investment world. But I think there's actually like a huge gap with women not going for the investment. So like for me personally, I've always struggled with my confidence. Like I would never be like, oh, I think my business is good enough to get investment. And I don't know if that's like a female thing or if it's just like a me thing, but I have spoken to other female founders and that's what they often talk about. Is like they don't feel like their business is ever good enough. Whereas like a man will start a business and then the next day he'll be like, right, I'm going for like £1 million investment. Do you know what I mean? Literally like they just think that they're like, it's amazing. Which so I actually think that the troubles that I've had and the difficulties I've had being a female founder is just from like not having that confidence as a female to be actually like go after what I want. So I think there's like a lot of work to do, like even if it's at schools or like if there's like mentoring that people need, because I also think that lots of women don't think that they can start businesses because they want to have kids or like all stuff like that. And I don't think that the world is really set up for women to start businesses, in my opinion. I think the system is like a little bit broken with like childcare. Like I don't have kids yet, but I know that it can be so expensive. But for me personally, I don't want to sit here and be like, well, I'm a female and like it's woe is me, literally, like you said, because I've actually had lots of opportunities as a female founder. And I think now we, as female founders, we can almost use it to our advantage 100%. Because there's literally like, there's so many like female communities out there. Like companies want to champion female founders a lot more. So I've actually found it in a positive way because we're almost like an anomaly. But I know that there is like another whole topic about women in business. But I personally haven't had a huge amount of issues with that.
Okay, interesting. I think you're so right there about the fact that actually we just don't back ourselves. I think we're also perfectionists. So we're like, oh, it's not ready yet. It's not ready yet. It's not pitch ready. It's not like all these different things. Like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that.
Yeah.
And actually, like you say, a man would just be like, yeah, I'm ready. Yeah. Like, I'm just going to go for it. And also like, I've had this recently where I've been on calls with guys and like they're pitching something like an idea. And I'm like, I can't really work out if this is like actually real yet or like just in their head, because they just like talk so like this is happening and this is happening and that's happening and you're like, wow, I'm sold. Whereas like a girl would be like, so we might be doing this, we may be doing that. Like we're just so much more like you say, we probably have more imposter syndrome. So it is so interesting. Did you ever feel like you weren't taken seriously though when you started your business?
So I think that I don't think I've had any of that, to be totally honest.
That's good.
But I think maybe I was a bit naive to it. So maybe that the people weren't taking me seriously, but I actually had no idea.
I mean, that's the best though, isn't it? That is the best.
Yeah.
So you now work with your fiance. Congratulations on the engagement. That's very, very exciting. So I have 2 questions within this. So firstly, with your fiance coming into the business, he's now, am I right in saying he's now CEO? So have you noticed a difference in the way that the business is operating and the way the business is being received by, I don't know, investors or different people with it there being a male CEO in comparison to when like it was just you running it? Have you noticed a difference in the way it's being received?
So I think because the business was so small when it was just me running it, that there was not really any like difference in the way that it was received. I think it was just that my skill set isn't a commercial mindset. Like I'm not very good at numbers. I'm trying to get better and I learn every day. But like Jack is so commercially minded and he is incredible at like scaling and growing the business. And then I do more of like the brand and the product side of it. So our skill sets like complement each other really well because we're doing different things, but on the same business. So I actually think I always say that like I would probably spend like 20 grand on a brand shoot and he would be like, are you joking? Like we're not doing that. We can't afford it or whatever. So I think that's where we're actually aligning quite well as together as a team. But I do think that people do like that there's a male CEO potentially. But he came on about 2 years ago. So the business it wasn't established before he was the CEO because it was kind of just like my little thing and
little thing on the side doing really well.
I was just playing with it. So yeah, I do think like when he came in and he became the CEO, I think it did like professionalize the business a lot more because obviously it's both of our livelihoods. So we had to basically make it a bit more professional, a bit more systemized. So I think it's definitely had benefits rather than any like negatives.
For sure. And how did he feel coming in? Like how did that work? Were you like, can you come in please? Or was he like, can I come in please? Like what was the dynamic and how did it happen?
Yeah, so I think in the very beginning, he was basically wanting me to do D.Louise. So I basically stopped complaining about my old life. And I didn't have any money. So he was like, you just need to figure this out. So then you'll just get off my back. And then he's been like my number one cheerleader the whole time. Like he encouraged me to leave my job. He encouraged me obviously to start the business. And he always said to me, so he had his other business alongside D.Louise. And he was like, oh, whenever D.Louise starts making more money than my other business, I'll like make that transition over. Obviously, it didn't take very long to become the better business.
We love it.
So it was kind of like a mutual agreement from the beginning. But he always had a stake in the business because I wanted him to be able to like, they say have like skin in the game. So he would give me good advice because I knew he was really good at business.
Amazing. Smart move from you. That's really, really good. I love it. And how is it working together?
I actually love it. Like we complement each other so well. And I always think that you spend so much of your life working and you actually live quite a separate life from your other half lots of the time. But I just think I'm so grateful that I get to spend so much time with him and we are like growing this life together. Because I think at work, so many things happen that you wish that you could experience or enjoy with your other half. And I'm lucky enough to be able to get to enjoy it with him. So yeah.
That's so nice. And do you have like home conversation, work conversations? Like how does it work at home? Are you like, right, we need to stop talking about work now? Or like at date night, is it like, right, no more work chat? Like do you have those boundaries or is it just like, we talk when we talk, we don't when we don't? Like, is it quite relaxed?
So in the beginning, I used to be like, oh, all we talk about is work. And then he said to me, he was like, why is that a bad thing? And I was like, you're so right. Why is that a bad thing? So basically, we absolutely love it. So like, we love talking about it and we love like, sometimes at dinner, we'll be talking about work like the whole time, but it's not like, oh, we're just talking about work and it's like not a negative connotation, if that makes sense. So we talk about it all the time because we love talking about it all the time. But there is times like if I'm on my sunbed and I'm reading my book and he's like, oh, have you seen what the ROAS is today? I'm like, give it a break, Jack.
I love that.
Yeah. So I think like I do have my boundaries.
Yeah.
But I'm very clear with him. Like it'll be like once in a blue moon if I'm on holiday and I'm like, you know what, I just actually want to switch off. And he's the exact same. Like sometimes I'll be like, we'll be falling asleep in bed and I'll be like, oh my God, have you seen this email? And he's like, I was just falling asleep.
Yeah. Oh, it's so nice.
Yeah.
Though. But like, I guess when you're in a relationship, you talk about your passions and your hobbies, and that is one of your passions and hobbies. So it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
No, I love that though. So I also want to talk about something that you've spoken about on your Instagram about confidence and talking to the camera.
Yes.
So obviously we're here doing a podcast and you're like naturally just like being incredible. But you said that didn't used to come very naturally to you, and it used to take you like hours and hours to like film a reel or like talk to the camera. So talk about like that journey into like getting comfortable talking to a camera, because it is quite an uncomfortable experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, how did you become more confident?
Yeah. So I think really good question. And as you get older, I think a lot of people don't think that they can like learn new skills. But honestly, I totally disagree. Like if a baby, I always say this analogy because it like resonates with people. So if a baby was learning to walk and it kept on falling over, you wouldn't just be like, oh, for the rest of its life, like it's not going to be able to walk. So I think this is the exact same as you get older. Like it's a lot harder to learn new skills. But you have to just be comfortable with being uncomfortable and not being very good at it. Like my first ever video that I took was it was a 3-minute video and it took me 6 hours to record, which is just crazy to think now, because now I can just like talk to camera very easily. So I think it's just about being able to get your reps in. So just do it as much as you can, and also just, be comfortable with being bad at something. Which is really hard to do.
It's
really
so hard.
Yeah.
But again, that's so brave of you, because a lot of people would be like, oh no, I'm not good at it. So I'm just not going to try anymore because I know it's not for me. And I don't want to feel like uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And feeling uncomfortable is horrible. And I think you're right. As we get older, we have more pride.
Yeah.
And so we don't like to be in situations that make us feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But you're right, getting in the reps. And it is hard. I remember I spoke to my camera for the first time, like years and years ago, and I was doing a story and I felt so uncomfortable. I put my phone in my room under my pillow and shut the door and walked away. I was like, I can't even see that on there. Like it felt so unnatural.
Yeah.
And I think it's normal. Like it isn't natural to be recording yourself like that. But I think, like you say, get the reps in, and like, I don't know, if someone's like wanting advice, maybe like do a few videos to like your brother or your friend or something, just like as practice. Like how else did you kind of practice?
So I think what the other thing is I did was I tried to not label myself. So I would always say before I was good on camera, I would be like, oh, I could never be that person. Like I'll never be that person. So I think it's about also like resetting your like mindset shift and having that belief that you can achieve that skill. So I think lots of people like put labels saying, oh, I could never do that, or I'll never be that person. But that's all just like internal dialogue, and it's not actually true.
So true, actually. And like, even when we started recording, you were like, oh, like I was never going to start a business. Like I'm not entrepreneurial. Jack is, I'm not, like, look at where you come. Like, of course you are. And I think it's so true. Like we are all capable of doing anything that we want to do. Like we are all capable of talking in front of the camera. Like everyone says, oh, I could never have a podcast. Like, of course, like I used to be so shy. Like I would never have had a podcast, but like you can do whatever. It goes back to what we were saying earlier. Like whatever you put your mind to do, you can definitely do. So I think, that is amazing. And I think, now you're doing podcasts, like you're like the face of the brand. And I think that's so, so good. But I guess with that, you still obviously have, I'm guessing, like imposter moments or like days where you don't feel as confident. Does that happen does that happen quite a lot, or?
Yeah, definitely. Like I feel like most weeks and days I have that pretty much. I still even feel like now Instagram, you always see someone that's prettier than you, stronger than you, better at talking on socials than you. So I think it's about like, I'm obviously always comparing myself to those people. But I think it's about being aware of that and really trying to like, I put lots of restrictions on my phone. So don't go on Instagram like between 8 and 8 the next one, the whole day. So yeah, so completely switch off.
That's very good.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I do snooze it for like 5 minutes and just go have a quick scroll. Yeah. But I think it's about like putting those boundaries in place with social media, because it can take over your life and you do feel like you constantly have to like show up and be better and do better. But sometimes it's actually okay not to be the best, and it's okay not to constantly have to show up and be pretty and put makeup on. And I think it's like knowing those boundaries and knowing when you can like tap into things like turning off socials and stuff like that, which I find really helps me in like darker days.
That is amazing. What else? So let's talk about wellness for a moment and like health and wellness and any tips you have. So firstly, where does health and wellness come into your everyday?
Yeah, so I absolutely love reading. So that would be like my wellness vibes, but I'm not really a meditator. So I almost use reading as my meditation. So I love like fiction books. So they're just stupid stories about like literally.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, like I love like a romance novel. Yeah. And I feel like I get completely lost in the story, and for me that's like my mindful like meditation, because I will just switch off for ages. I've recently gotten into running, so I love exercise, love running, love going to the gym, so I like doing gym classes. So yeah, I do definitely try and have like health and wellness. I feel like I could be better, but I feel like everyone could be better.
Of course.
It's endless.
Yeah, it's endless what you could do. But I think that's so nice, like having those switch off moments. Because like, again, when you have your own business, like you're on all the time. There's so much to think about. But being able just to go for a run, clear your head, read, escape into like a different world. I completely love that. And now I want to touch on your mood boosting kit. Now you can probably tell I have deep dive stalked your Instagram.
Love it.
But I saw this and I was like, I love this. And I feel like everyone needs a mood boosting kit. So can you talk about what that is and what your mood boosting kit like entails of?
Yeah, so this came about. So I was reading a book called, I think it's like the 21 Things of Wellness. I can share it with you after. But one of the things in it was it was like create yourself a mood boosting kit. And when you're in a bad mood, for me, I am literally like poisonous. Like you do not want to be around me. And I almost like punish myself for being in a bad mood. So I'm like, oh, well, I don't want to do that because I'm in a bad mood. So I know that will make me feel better. Like I remember once I was on a walk, I did this kind of a segue, but I did this big charity walk. And on one of the days, it was like a 50-kilometer day and it was really hard. And the guy I was with my friend Ollie, and he was like, right, I know you're struggling today. Let's do 3 things we're grateful for. And I was like, literally go away. I was like, shut up. I was like, I'm not doing it. So it was almost like you almost punish yourself. Well, me, I almost like punish myself when I'm in a bad mood. So anyway, back to the mood boosting kit. So I was reading this book and I was like, that is such a good idea, because when you're in a bad mood, you can't really see a way out of it. So this was just like a few key things for me that I felt like would boost my mood. So music, I feel like you can't go wrong with music, even though it sounds a bit cheesy, but like if I put on a good song, you can't not sing along and like feel better about it. Going for a walk, that really like clears my head. Even if I don't want to go, I'm like, you go and you instantly feel better. And I think as well, it's about like having healthy choices, like with your eating, like even if you're in a bad mood, sometimes I just want sweets and chocolate, but trying to choose fruit and veg, which actually nourishes my body and makes me feel better. I can't remember what else was on there. I probably should.
That's so good. And you're so right. And everyone's mood boosters are going to be different. It could be like, I don't know, going to a pottery class or like something completely random. But I agree. I think it's so nice to have. And also, like, do you have it in your notes written down?
Yes.
So then you know, like, I'm feeling down. What do I do? Go to your kit and you're like, right, which one of these are like achievable for me to do right now?
Yeah.
And that's so nice. And you're right, like putting on a good song, like dancing in your bathroom whilst you're doing your skincare, like that's just so fun. Yeah. And I think it's so nice to have that. And I think that's what everyone can probably implement into their notes. I mean, my notes is like, wow, there's so much going on in there. Yeah. But I think for me, it would be music's definitely one. I'd say going for a run. Yeah. I think you never feel bad after going for a run. Even in the rain. Like I went this morning and it was not fun because it was a bit wet. Yeah. But like you just feel great afterwards. You're like, oh, I feel good. I've done something for myself. Even like a little treat yourself, like, I don't know, get your nails done or like buy some new pajamas or buy some more jewellery or like, I don't know, like a little bit of self-care, little treat. I think that's so, so nice.
Yeah, there was one of the ones that I remember that was on there. It was like a list of funny videos that you find funny. And that was, for me, that was a good one because like, you know, TikTok, YouTube, anywhere, you can get really funny videos and you can't not laugh at them and feel good about them. So yeah, that's another one.
I love that. Okay, what's your like videos that you just can't stop laughing at?
So have you ever seen the baby panda sneezing?
No.
Oh my God, no, you have to watch it. It's so funny. So it's literally like this baby panda and she starts sneezing and her mum like freaks out. But I love it so much.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
There are these videos that like, you can't stop laughing at. Like I love it.
That's one of them.
Mine is like Holly and Phil's bloopers on this morning.
Yeah, that's good.
I just cry with laughter.
Yeah.
Because also their laughter is contagious.
100%.
So I like put on like a montage of their bloopers and I'm literally just crying with laughter. It's so good. That is very good advice.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to finish off with a question that I ask every single guest, and it is back to food, which is what would your last meal be? Starter, main course, and dessert.
Oh, this is a good one. So I think starter would have to be scallops. I know that's such like a weird one, but I love scallops with like bacon. I think it's delicious.
Yeah.
And also no one really likes them, but I do. That would be my starter. My main course would probably have to be rocker. I love rocker. Like the black cod there is so good. So I would get like a little, can I choose like tapasy vibes for it? Okay, fine. Yeah, I got around that one. And then my dessert would probably be like frozen yogurt with like loads of toppings.
I could not agree more
Love
on the
it.
frozen yogurt. So my issue with frozen yogurt is that like if I order a snog, the delivery is more expensive than the yogurt.
Yeah, what's that about?
So I'm like, oh, this is really ridiculous.
Also, why is it so hard to get frozen yogurt in London?
Like, can they open more? Because when I go anywhere near one, I'm like, oh my God, I've got to go. But then I can't like take it home with me because it'll start melting. Like, it's a real dilemma.
I know.
Yeah,
Honestly.
I love it. Also, don't make your own at home. It doesn't work.
No. Agreed.
Oh, no. Honestly, Olivia, thank you so much for coming on. Your story is so inspiring. You're so inspiring. What you created with D.Louise is amazing. And thank you so much for coming to my kitchen.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've loved it.